and welcome to this SUPboarder comparison review of the Aquatone Flame Touring iSUPs. Now, great to get these boards out on the water. If you are a first-time paddler, maybe you have paddled a little bit before but are looking to get a board that is going to paddle a little bit faster, be able to store some gear, then stick around, watch this video because these boards might be right for you. Thanks so much for tuning into this SUPboarder comparison review. If you're new here, welcome, and if you have tuned in before, thank you so much for watching again. Today we are looking at Aquatone Flame Touring iSUPs. Aquatone is a sister brand to Astron. Astron, as most of us know, is a big player in the water sports market nowadays, just covering such a wide range of products. Aquatone is their cheaper price point board, but still good quality and still able to get you out on the water having fun. So let's dive into this review, starting off with the specifications of both of these boards. First board we have is the 11 feet 6 inches long, 32 inches wide, 6 inches thick Flame touring board. This equates to 306 liters of volume. It weighs 10 kilograms, and the recommended retail price is £449, euros and dollars. Moving on to the other board we have up for comparison, this is the 12 feet 6 inch long version of the Flame, 32 inches wide, 6 inches thick, 339 liters of volume, weighs just over 10 kilograms. It's the same amount of PSI to put in the board, which is 15. And this retails for 479 British pounds, US dollars or euros. The construction of both of these boards are exactly the same, which is a double layer fusion core. And this features a PVC skin around the drop stitch with a second layer fused on top, and it creates a really lightweight board but also quite durable. Looking at what you get in the package of purchase for the Aquatone Flames, both get the same in the package. Now it comes with that backpack that you can see down in the corner there. The backpack is really lightweight, it's not super padded, but it's just a simple bag, and especially at this price point, it's what you expect. Easy just to throw everything in the bag, chuck it in the back of the car, take it down to the beach. It's not going to get you walking longer distances. And if you are thinking of doing that, maybe you should think about upgrading that backpack. We also get a paddle with the package. Now this is an aluminium shaft with a nylon blade. Fairly basic paddle, but a great paddle to get starting out in stand-up paddleboarding. That nylon blade is super durable, so any knocks on rocks and things like that won't be too noticeable, and it's not going to really damage the paddle. It is quite a heavy paddle, so if you're a lighter weight rider or you feel like you don't want to strain too much with your shoulders or your back, you could probably upgrade your paddle as well. Now looking at the pump you get with purchase, simple pump, double action, so it does have a pin here which you can release for the single action. So what we mean by double action is when you are pumping, starting off the board, put the pin in, pump up on the upstroke and on the downstroke, and then when that pumping gets a little bit too hard, take out the pin and it will just inflate on that downstroke. So it makes that inflation a little bit easier when you get to that higher PSI. Fairly good pump, not the best pump, but again, for the price of this package, it is an okay pump included. You get a coiled leash also included in the package. Now, basic coiled leash, and also you get a fin with your purchase, of course. I really like Aquatone's fin system. It's a great click in with a little push pin as well, so you're really locking that fin in place. But it's great because there's no movement at all in the box, and you know that you're not going to lose your fin if you do hit anything on the bottom. Taking a look on the fittings on both boards, which are both the same across each of the boards we have up for comparison. Starting on the deck of the board, we have the bungee system at the front for carrying gear. Moving back from that, and we'll find our valve point just off to the rail toward the middle of the board. Now this is different to a lot of other brands on the market, and we'll be touching on this a little bit later. We have our center carry handle, well weighted, nice and comfortable to carry. Great handle at this price point board. We do have D-ring attachments on the top of both of the boards as well, if you were to put a kayak seat on top. The deck pad is just a diamond pattern. It's not the grippiest deck pad, does the job though, and as you transition back toward the tail pad, you see it changes color to that blue, and we actually have a little kicker at the back as well. So when you are doing a step back turn or walking back to the back of the board, you can really feel where your foot is and you can jam your foot up against that kicker. Behind that, we just have our D-ring for our leashing attachment. And if we flip the board over, we can see that we have a fin box for the fitting of the fin, And at the nose of the board, we also have a D-ring for towing. So quite a simple, no frills kind of board that you get from Aquatone. I really like that raised logo at the front of the board. Just gives it that little bit of added aesthetics when you are looking at it. But there's not those fittings that you find from those premium brands, such as handles and other additional fittings that you would get. But like we said before, for this price point, it's a great board to get you out on the water. Moving into the deflection test for both of these boards, where we measure the stiffness. Now, stiffness is really important when we are stand-up paddling. The stiffer the board, the more performance it's going to have, the better feel it's going to have underneath our feet, and we're going to be able to progress our paddling as well. So these boards, in our deflection test, we get a 1.5 meter gap, put a 75 kilogram weight in the middle of that, and see how far the board bends. Both of these boards deflected at 12 millimeters, and that's a really great result considering we get boards that range from 7 millimeters all the way up to about 28 millimeters in their deflection. So fairly stiff boards that you are getting from Aquatone. That's really down to the thickness of that 6 inches and that double fusion layer as well. More layers, it's going to add more weight, but it's also going to really stiffen up the board for performance. Inflating these boards is quite an easy process. Rolling it out, connecting the pump to the valve, you'll be able to pump it up in around 5 to 8 minutes. So getting these boards out on the water, and I'm just going to mention the first thing that I noticed the difference is, and it's pretty much the difference between all boards, you know, when we are comparing different sizes. Obviously the 12.6, which is in front of me here, just had a bit more speed, had a bit more stability. It's obviously longer, it's going to have more glide, it's also going to have that little bit more extra stability from that front to back. I noticed that you could probably be a little bit of a heavier rider to be on the 12.6 and still get great performance from it, even when you are carrying a little bit of gear. Then if we cross back to the 11 feet 6 inch Flame model, that board's just great for maneuvering. It's obviously a little bit shorter in length, so it's going to have a little bit less swing weight. What that means is the less board we have, the easier it is to maneuver. So really great step back turning on that board. You could really maneuver it a little bit from the middle as well with the paddle, whereas the 12.6, because of that added length, because it's sitting a little bit longer in the water, just means you have to work a little bit harder to turn from the middle and from the back as well. So definitely pros and cons between both of them to start off with. But if we have a look at the tracking from both of them, really great boards for tracking. Notice that I was just paddling on one side for quite a number of strokes before needing to switch over, which is always a great feel when you are paddling a board. The stability on both of the boards, like I mentioned before, the 12.6 just had that little extra added stability just because of the length. The 11.6 is still really stable, but I did notice that as you're rocking side to side, just didn't have that solid feel as compared to the 12.6. So definitely lighter weight riders or people with maybe slightly more experience could ride the 11.6, and the 12.6 definitely more suited to those heavy riders or those beginner paddlers. Now the shape of these boards is quite a standard shape for the touring space. You have quite a wide standing area, then it does pull in a little bit toward the nose, but obviously holds its width where the bungee is so you are able to store gear. And then moving back toward the tail, it holds its width a little bit but pulls in toward a kind of a bigger square tail. Now that's really great for adding a little bit more width for that stability as well. The wider you have a board in the tail and the nose and in the standing area, the more stable it's going to be. That fin is a 9-inch size fin, really nice feeling in the water. Maybe it could be a touch bigger to add a little bit extra tracking, a little bit more control and stability, especially on the 11.6 would be nice, but as a 9-inch fin, it's working quite well. We'll notice one of the key differences between both of these is just the rocker line on the nose. We'll see that the 11-foot 6-inch version of the Flame just kicks up that little extra more, which would perform a bit better in those bumpier conditions, getting over the chops. Whereas that 12.6 has a little bit of a flatter nose rocker, that little bit of a flatter curve, which means that it's just going to track and glide a little bit better in the water. It's going to hold its line because it has a bit more board in the water. But when it gets to those bumpy conditions, you might find that the waves are splashing up over the sides or trying to push you in a different direction. So maybe take that into consideration depending on the types of conditions you will be paddling these boards in. Overall, I'm quite a fan of how these boards look in their color scheme, especially with that yellow, orange, blue. It's quite striking and it really stands out, different to a lot of other brands. So you're getting a great looking board. However, I will just touch on that the finishes aren't 100%, and you will see some glue lines. You might see some lifting up of the deck pad in some places. Very small, very minor. Probably nothing to go back to a warranty claim for, but it is noticeable compared to some of the other brands with just that little bit added price point. In saying that it's an entry-level board into paddleboarding, the 12.6 was actually entered into our SUPboarder Pro iSUP touring test last year in 2021. If you haven't seen that video, or if you're not signed up to SUPboarder Pro, make sure you go and check it out, because the Flame actually did stack up pretty well against some of the top brands in that test. We had about 22 boards, just over 20 boards for the test. So seeing it doing well means that Aquatone are doing something right. We really think that they do have some great products at that entry level into the market. So definitely don't discount this board if you are thinking of starting out on your touring adventures in stand-up paddleboarding. Now, getting both boards off the water, nice and easy to carry, like we mentioned before, well-weighted carry handle. Deflating the boards is a fairly easy process. I'm not going to say it's the most simple process. That's just because the valve point is located in the middle of the board. Releasing the air is really nice and easy, but when it comes to rolling the board up, you can't actually roll it from one end and get rid of all of that air. You have to break out the pump and change that hose to the deflate point and suck all of that air out of that board so you are able to roll it from one end to the other. If you do try to roll it, you're going to get to the middle point and you just won't be able to reach the other end to get all of that air out. So it can be a little bit of a pain, and that's definitely going to come up in the cons section that we're going to touch on very, very soon. So as long as you get all of that air out of the board, it rolls up really nice and tight, fits into the bag really well, and you can put all the other accessories in that backpack as well. So a nice bag from Aquatone that does fit all of the contents. If we were to start moving into some of the downfalls of both of these boards, I'm going to say again, just that valve point in the middle, it's really hard to roll up the board, but again, it's a simple fix if you do use that deflate point on your pump. Another con to these boards, we have mentioned it before, just the finishes on there. They're not 100%, but again, not really expected from the price point of these boards. We'll also mention that the deck pad can be a little bit slippery. We've noticed that this is quite a basic deck pad. It doesn't have that crocodile skin texture that a lot of other brands have opted for. It's just quite a smooth, just with that diamond pattern on there. So it does get a little bit wet. Maybe if there's a little bit of slime on the water surface and it gets onto the deck pad, you will notice your feet slipping around a little bit. This could be counteracted if you wear some boots or if you have some water shoes that you wear on the board. But if you are in bare feet, you will notice it just slipping around a little bit. And another con from Aquatone is just their environmental credibility. All of the products do come wrapped in plastic. Aquatone have mentioned that they are thinking of changing this into the future, and we really hope that they do. But all in all, for the price, this is great value for money. You're getting quite a great board that is easy to use, easy to carry. It's nice and lightweight, which is such a pro to this board. Both boards being only around 10 kilograms, that's a really nice lightweight board for you to carry, especially if you're a lighter weight rider getting into the sport of stand-up paddling and you don't want something that's going to break the bank. This is great value for money. So who are these boards going to suit? Well, I'll speak about them separately, and I'll start off firstly with the 11'6". We have mentioned it throughout the video, but definitely suited to the more lighter weight rider. I'm going to say in that weight range from 55 kilograms to roughly 75, 80 kilograms would be great for the 11'6" version, especially if you're a first time paddler in that weight range. Definitely opting for the 11'6", has a bit more maneuverability, so you are able to start learning how to control your board, maneuver your board, but still have that little bit of an added length, stepping up from an all-round board, which is around 10'6" to an 11'6", just means you're getting a bit faster board through the water as well. So you're kind of winning on all fronts if you do opt for that touring style 11'6" Flame. If you are looking at the 12'6" model, you probably want to be a little bit of a heavier rider. I'd say in that weight range from 70 to 95, even maybe pushing it to 100 kilograms on the Flame. They're quite a stiff board, so if you do put a bit more weight on there, it's still going to bend a little bit more, but it's still going to hold its shape, which is really great from a board at this price point. I'm definitely trying to push these boards more toward that entry-level paddler, that first-time stand-up paddler getting into the sport. If you already do have a little bit of experience and you are looking at getting into the touring space, You may want to have a look at other brands that maybe have some more premium fittings, such as handles at the front and back so you can maneuver the board. I will just touch on the thickness of boards as well. Both of these boards come in at 6 inches thick, and that's kind of the standard across most of the market today. However, you may have come across boards that are 4.7 inches thick, 4.75 inches thick, or even 5 inches thick. So a little bit thinner than these boards. Now they're definitely suited to more lighter weight riders. You're going to be sitting lower in the water, which means you have better balance and a lower center of gravity. So these boards being 6 inches thick, it's great to get you on the water, but it will change the feeling for you, especially if you are a lighter weight rider. Maybe want to consider having a look for those thinner boards. But as a first time paddler, it's great to just jump on these boards and get a feel for how they're going to work for you. And then you can look at upgrading and kind of maneuvering exactly what you want out of a board into the future. Last thing we'll say about the Aquatone boards is that you only get a 1-year warranty with purchase. Now that's kind of at the lower end of warranties. We do see other brands that kind of have a standard 2-year warranty. We even have brands that go up to a 5-year warranty. But with that 1-year warranty, it's expected from this price point, you're going to get a good year, 2, 3 years. If you look after this board, you're probably going to get a lot more years of use out of it. But it's good to know that you can start on these boards and then really find your kind of groove in stand-up paddling and then upgrade from there. But there we are. That is the Flame Aquatone Touring iSUP comparison of the 11.6 and the 12.6. Remember, 11.6 good for those lighter weight riders who want a bit more maneuverability out of a board. 12.6 better for those heavier riders or those looking for a little bit of a faster touring board in the water. Thanks so much for tuning in to this SUPboarder comparison review. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you do have any questions, please do drop them in the comments below. We'll happily answer any questions that you may have. Try and look for your local Aquatone dealer. They'll be able to help you out, maybe even suggest what might be better for you, be it between the 11.6 or the 12.6 or another board in the Aquatone range. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you very soon on another SUPboarder comparison review.